Very good morning, Leanne, and to your listeners, viewers.
For those hearing about this bill for the very first time, just give us a bit of a breakdown of what exactly the bill is proposing.
Well, Leanne, the broad thrust of the bill essentially is to create a better capacity for the country to be able to respond and to avert and investigate and take actions against any incidences relating to cyber crime in particular. So it is really an opportunity for the country to have in place legislation that for the first time will allow government to be able to take a very stern action against people who perpetrate these acts that we see growing, as we have indicated in your introduction. It is therefore meant to create new structures that will have new responsibilities. It will also allow, for instance, the electronic service providers, communication service providers, to be able to take extra measures to protect customers and individuals' information and report any incidences of cybercrime that they might come across.
When we talk about cybercrime, I imagine it's a whole range of issues. Obviously, from being hacked into and money being stolen and moved around from an individual to a company's perspective. I imagine it covers a wide range of other cyber offences as well. Give us a little bit of a sense of what the bill actually covers and how far it goes.
Well, Leanne, what the bill seeks to do, it seeks to provide additional capacity, as I'm saying. For instance, there are currently crimes that will be covered by our current legislation. However, the bill takes this a step forward by coordinating with the existing legislation and providing new offences, for instance, because as you would know, the issues of computer-related fraud, money laundering, the issues of phishing, and also inciting violence and also cyber terrorism. These are new things that the bill seeks to create offences for, so that as a state, as a government, and also with the private sector, will be able to be better prepared and respond better to take action and take and introduce very serious sentences so that we can reduce the incidence of cybercrime.
Do you not then think that we run the risk of inadvertently turning an ordinary cyberspace user into a criminal? Do you think that's a possibility?
No, Leanne. I think the thrust of the bill, as I was saying, it seeks to create a safer environment for everybody who uses cyberspace. So whereas a private sector, for instance, will interact and conduct various transactions there, or government, for instance, because government runs a number of databases that involves millions of users' information, or even the institutions of higher learning, for instance, they will run serious databases that involves a lot of critical information. What the bill seeks to do is to provide an environment where all of us who interact with cyberspace can do so in a much safer space as it were before. Of course, we are aware of the need to protect privacy and individual rights, and I think the bill to an extent goes to try and balance that, because as you would know, Leanne, while we have to enjoy our rights and we have to protect and promote our rights, we also have to strike a balance to ensure that those rights, we can exercise them in a safer and secure environment. And the bill tries to do that, to create this balance without infringing on privacy rights, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at something like this, I mean, let's talk about the constitutionality of such a bill and the impact that it'll have on issues such as the freedom of speech, expression, association. I mean, my understanding as well is that things like social media are also going to be monitored very, very closely.
Well, Leanne, we recognize, for instance, that South Africa is a constitutional democracy, and therefore every law that must be passed must be able to meet constitutional muster, and careful exercise has been exercised here to ensure that while we try to promote security, we also do that in a responsible way by balancing that with these rights. And so I don't think at this stage people must be worried about that they will be monitored untoward, as it were. People will continue to use social media to do the interactions that they do. That will not be impacted in any way. But what we are saying is that there is critical databases infrastructure that is there, which all of us must protect and must take action. And this, in the end, starts at an individual level, where we say individuals must exercise caution when they interact with cyberspace, when they conduct transactions there and those things. They must take precautions and avoid being led or avoid to go into links that they don't know, because this is where it starts, as it were. So there are various levels of responsibilities that must be exercised from an individual level right up to government and private sector.
I mean, I'm reading some analysis of our legislation when it comes to cybersecurity. I mean, as we mentioned, you know, when you look at the how much we lose annually, I think it's sitting at around about 2.2 billion rand that gets affected when we talk about cybercrime here in South Africa. I know that one of the professors talking about cybercrime says the African Union Convention shows South Africa is far behind as far as cybersecurity is concerned. Government and private sector must work together to cybersecure South Africa. This was a comment that was made earlier this year, and I can imagine what's happening now is in response to a lot of this about South Africa lagging behind in terms of this legislature. I mean, this is an ever-changing and ever-evolving sector at the moment, cybercrime.
Indeed, that's correct, and we are dealing here with a global phenomena which knows no boundaries. And of course, our interest in the first place is to ensure that domestically we have the measures in place to ensure we can secure our cyberspace. We can ensure that people who interact there do so with a level of security. But of course, we have to look at the international trends as well and to say, how do we ensure that we continue to partner with international role players, as it were, that we also create avenues for us to be able to cooperate in the investigation of this crime internationally, by signing treaties, by entering into agreements, so that together as a globe, as it were, we are able to continue to share information and improve our own situation domestically. And of course, in our conference which we held not so long ago, where we interacted with the private sector, with institutions of higher learning, this point was made that South Africa must improve its capacity. South Africa must begin to share more information with its own stakeholders internally, but also internationally, so that all of us can contribute to the fight that we are seeing growing every day. And that is what this bill seeks to do in many ways.
All right, Brian, we've got a lot of contact details that we're going to put up on the screen right now. If people do want to get hold of you, that deadline is on the 14th of December. That's this coming Monday for submissions. Is that how the public can get hold of you? Through all means of communication, through email? Just talk to us how we can actually comment on this.
Well, as you had said in introduction, Leanne, the Department of Justice is the one that's coordinating all this work, and people can find the details in their website, which is justice.gov.za, and indeed make these contributions, because at this stage, this is a draft that is still going to be looked into before it gets approved by Cabinet to be tabled in Parliament, where, of course, there will be a lengthy period for people to make contributions when Parliament considers this bill and works through it line by line.
All right, that was the spokesperson of the State Security Agency, Mr. Brian Dube, sharing some much-needed insight on the issue of cybercrimes and the cybersecurity bill. Remember to make your voice heard by submitting your written comments by this coming Monday, the 14th of December. Visit the website of the Justice Department. That's www.justice.gov.za.